Salute, 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 salute. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Wow! What it is, what it do, what's happening, man. Nocturnal Thoughts, real quick video, then I'm going to get out the way. I wanted to talk about Tszyu and his potential and having some super mega fights, being a huge star, iconic star in the land down under. If the world of possibilities of all the doors are going to open up after he fights Brian Mendoza, if he shall be victorious against Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza, I watched a couple of highlights to get caught up to speed with Brian Mendoza. He's the guy that had the infamous knockout of Sebastian Fundora, the Towering Inferno, one of the most polarizing knockouts you're going to ever be able to see, because Sebastian Fundora is so tall and lanky and fights in the pocket. That knockout automatically makes it look like a David versus Goliath. David using the slingshot with the faith in God to slay the giant. Also, Brian Mendoza was able to knock out Jermall Charlo. And he had a good fight against, I believe, dude named was Ramos, the same guy that just fought Lubin. Lubin fought Sebastian Fundora. Lubin got his face broke open in a great back and forth slugfest fight of the year type of a fight. Jermall Charlo's in the mix. When you talk about Jermall Charlo, when you talk about Jermall Charlo versus Tszyu, that also brings Terence Crawford into the mix. People want to see Tszyu, if he gets past Brian Mendoza, who's a good fighter, solid power, good punch selection, likes to fight in the pocket, brings the fight to you, doesn't back down, big dog in his heart. Not the size of the dog in the fight, the size of the fight in the dog. Brian Mendoza comes to fight. He doesn't come to lay down. And he is, you know what I'm saying, a legitimate, tough, good, solid fighter, well-rounded. You know what I'm saying? I see little holes when I watch him in his defense and maybe his footwork, and maybe his guard comes down sometimes and he's open for some shots, but he'll take some shots to give some shots, and he has some power and he has tenacity. You know what I'm saying? He should be a great fight between him and Tszyu. That should be a great fight for me to be able to see what skill set both of these guys really have in a tough fight against somebody that's not going to just come in and get knocked down in the first round. If Tszyu gets past Brian Mendoza and shows his skill set and shows his power and his, you know what I'm saying, his punch selection and his movement, his defense, his reflexes. When I see him fight against Brian Mendoza, if he's victorious and impressive, then that opens up the opportunity for him to fight against a guy like Terence Crawford. Everybody want to see Terence Crawford versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. They want to see Terence Crawford against Jermall Charlo. That has diminished slightly. But at 154, Terence Crawford, being 2 times undisputed, he has a fight. He has a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. I keep that in mind because that is coming up. But if he's victorious, right now, the world is Terence Crawford's oyster. You know what I'm saying? But his next opponent still has to be opponent in my mind to make sense. Him fighting Canelo, that's a super fight, mega fight, huge fight. That generates billions of dollars, and it's a huge fight. But it's far-fetched in my mind to a certain extent of Canelo going that way. We don't know which way Canelo's going to take, but I think that's one of the last options, but I believe it is an option. You know, so that puts Terence Crawford where a wiser choice might be for him to fight Tszyu at 154, collect that belt. Now, does Tszyu beat Terence Crawford? Because I got people on my channel that really, really, really believe that Jermall Charlo is afraid, you know what I'm saying, shaking in his boots, afraid of Tszyu. So if Jermall Charlo is afraid of Tszyu, then we don't want to see that fight. We want to see Tim, because Tszyu is that dangerous and that intimidating. And I want to see him in there with a great fighter that's not going to, fight to survive like they say Jermall Charlo did, right? Now, I think Jermall Charlo is a great fight with Tszyu to get redemption. So I don't think that way as far as just throwing Terence Crawford and Tszyu into the ring with each other. But I understand the logic behind it. I'm asking you guys what you think, especially you Tszyu fans. What do you think if he gets past Brian Mendoza? And how does that fight look between Tszyu against Brian Mendoza? I got to see it. I got to see that fight to see the possibilities of him. Can he survive the elite level skills and the power in both hands of a Terence Crawford? In my mind, I have to see him demonstrate against Brian Mendoza for me to say, do I think of Jermall Charlo that comes down to 154 in his natural weight class and is motivated to get redemption off his last performance? Do I see, when I see him training in grind mode, and he's really going back into a lion mentality, not a cash grab or not, a legacy fight and a huge opportunity of fighting, a guy like Canelo. If he comes back down, he's gained experience. He's went 12 rounds with Canelo. He comes back down to his weight class, and no Roy Jones Jr. happens to him where he, does need damage, draining his body back down to 154. That version of Jermall Charlo, the version of Jermall Charlo that did fight Brian Castano in the second fight, the version of Jermall Charlo that did pull out that victory in dramatic fashion against Tony Harrison, that guy I want to see in the ring with Tszyu. And if I see Tszyu look awesome against Brian Mendoza, then I have to imagine them two clash. And I think that'd be a huge fight. And to be honest, Tszyu has a lot more leverage now. And I used to think that, yeah, if Tszyu fights, he should be a conquistador and come to American soil, come to, Vegas or Texas and fight Jermall Charlo. But since Jermall Charlo is in a position where he has to get redemption, he might have to, submit to fighting in the land down under. That fight would be huge, So I'll wrap it up with this. We already seen Jeff Horn versus Terence Crawford, and we've seen Devin Haney fight Kambosos twice in the land down under. But Tszyu is really building up a name for himself, separating from his father, Tszyu. He's had some good knockouts, and he's trying to be on the hunt to hunt down a Jermall Charlo. But he has to get past Brian Mendoza first. So after I see the way this hunt goes, if he gets this kill, if he gets the target, and I see an impressive fight where I see all of his skill set, not just power, but I see dynamic abilities, when I see other dimensions to his game, if Brian can bring that out of him, if I can see his chin, if I can see, the way he thinks and calculates and moves and creates distance, and if he can get in the pocket and show me, a little bit more wrinkles to his game, then to me, if it's very impressive, I would look at that fight for Terence Crawford and Jermall Charlo more than looking for those guys to, well, I know I'm not going to see Jermall Charlo against Canelo again, but I would rather see Terence Crawford fight a legitimate opponent like Tszyu versus the Saul Canelo Alvarez. But you can't take out everything I just said and say that for Brian Mendoza if he's victorious. This is boxing. You never know what's going to happen. Those are my thoughts. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. It's Nocturnal Thoughts. Salute, salute, salute.